I'm somewhat upset because I spent 20 something minutes making a video. And after the video was completed, I went back to edit the video and learned that the mic wasn't even on. So I'm doing like almost 30 minutes of talking. Had some really good information, and I'm sure what I had to say is not coming back. So I'm gonna have to try to replicate that same video in this video. But you see the title, full deposition naming Omar, also names Sarsauer and Kushner as Qatari assets. Now, I understand a lot of y'all don't really know what I'm talking about or what this article is about. But if you look at the subheading, it says we recruited, and this is in quotes, we recruited both Republicans and Democrats. But that's not good enough. We want to rule the White House, the Qataris allegedly said. Now, there's a lot of Democrats that will comment on the Republicans that's anti-Trump or that testifies in opposition against Trump with false information. And I've heard so many Democrats say his own party is against him. His own party is testifying against him. His own party is doing this and his own party is doing that. But you have to understand that just because a Republican is anti-Trump does not mean that the Republican is for the party as a whole or for the benefit of the people. See, there's a major game that's being played on Americans. And I mentioned in videos of the past that America and Americans were being dumbed down. And you were being dumbed down for a reason. And much of the reason which Americans were being dumbed down are now starting to come to light, because now they can say and do just about anything, and Americans are so far asleep they won't say nothing about it. The fight has left Americans. Americans no longer have the fight to defend where they live. They care less about the future of their children. They're more concerned about illegal immigrants and people they don't know, and open borders, and the fact that they were manipulated and conditioned to hate a man that's only trying to help them. The Democrats spent, almost 3 years fighting against Trump, and they did nothing for the people that voted them into office. Now, I've made a video in the past about how America was being torched and burned. And of course, YouTube demonetized that video. It was on the Fearless 2005 channel before I deleted it. But YouTube demonetized that video. See, there's a lot of things that we talk about and that we talked about because I believe the Most High gives certain people the information to pass on to the populace. But like in biblical days, they're not going to listen. Instead, they kill the messenger, or better yet, they slay the messenger. I'm no more than a messenger. I also talked about how there was a hostile takeover. And that video might still be up on my Fearless J1111 channel. But I spoke on the hostile takeover and how there was a hostile takeover here in America, but yet Americans, Democrats, did not want to hear it. Now, it's interesting that we have politicians in Congress that have done no work for the people that voted them into office, but they spent their entire time fighting against President Donald Trump. and supporting not the people of America, but the people of other nations. But what they do with Americans is they constantly make empty promises of everything being free. And when asked, how are you going to pay for all of this free stuff? Then they would say, well, we will go up on taxes, or we will tax the rich. Because we have Americans that are so gullible that they expect the billionaires and the millionaires to give them their money, share the wealth. So they're all for that. So as long as the politician can make empty promises, oh, we're going to legalize marijuana, or better yet, we're going to make marijuana, we're going to stop legalizing, we're going to legalize marijuana, we're going to legalize this everything unrighteous and ungodly, we're going to let you abort your babies, you can even kill your baby, late-term abortions, and people are cheering and applauding. We're going to give you free health care. You go to college for free. Everybody free. And Bernie Sanders is mind-blowing because he's doing all the gestures of deception and people can't see it. The only real people that can see that is older people like the baby boomers. And even many of them are deceived and have been bewitched or rocked to sleep with the hatred of Trump. And these are people that used to love the man. But Bernie Sanders had the hand gestures and, education free for everybody. Everybody get free health care, free education, free shelter. But yet in the demon crap states, the states where they have sanctuary cities, and I'm going to get with the article, the states where they have the sanctuary cities. In California, the place that's fighting against President Trump the hardest is now filled with feces because people are defecating in the streets. People are living on the streets in tents, Skid Row. And the government refused, better yet, their own local governments refuse to help them. They're so focused on helping foreigners and opening the borders that they care less about the homeless Americans now that used to work. But yet now things are so expensive to the point where they can't afford it no more. So now California is going down the tubes. And the demon craps, it's a demon crap state and they care nothing about it, but yet they're living good. But the people are suffering. And the craziest thing about that is the demon craps are so asleep that when election time come around, instead of voting different, you may not like the guy, but if the guy is able to help you and help your state, that's the person you vote for. But instead, they allow the media to manipulate them. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post. You let them manipulate you. And then you go to the polls and vote those same demons back in office, knowing that they did nothing for you for the past 3 years. So that makes no sense to me. Maybe it's time for people to start voting different. Maybe it's time for people, Americans, to start looking out for themselves. Because Americans have become the laughing stock of the world. I'm going to repeat that. Americans have become the laughing stock of the world. It says we recruited both Republicans and Democrats. But that's not good enough. Now they're about to tell you their agenda. We want to rule the White House, the Qataris allegedly said. That's their goal. And I mentioned in videos of the past that Ilhan Omar is a terrorist. Many people have said that Ilhan Omar was a terrorist, and people fail to listen. They support her because of her skin complexion, because of the fact that she's a Muslim, and they don't want to be looked at as someone that don't like Muslims. But she's a terrorist, and she was put in that position for a particular reason. Now, I'm not going to read the entire article. I'm going to read portions of this article, but I want you guys to pay close attention to what's being said. Now, this was taken from the Jerusalem Post. Now, let me share a quick story right quick. There's these Muslims I usually talk to that own a corner store here. And usually they're pretty reserved in what they say. They're careful about the words that they select because I guess they try to, you can tell they try to be on their good behaviors because, you know, I don't know if they, well, they got businesses, so they must be doing pretty good. But it reminds me of like Moses when he was about to be killed and he ran and hid among the Egyptians, you know, and that's what a lot of these Middle Easterns are doing. They're hiding among black people. So you have terrorists hiding among black people in the black community, right? They have businesses, but a lot of money that's being made is being shipped back to their cause, right? But I questioned this one guy and I said, what are your thoughts of Ilhan Omar? And he had the expression on his face like, what's it to you? Why are you concerned about her? Right? And he said, she's doing fine. She's good. She's good. She's not going nowhere. And he was very sure of himself that she's not going nowhere. She's not going anywhere. She's pretty good. I said, well, I was reading the Jerusalem Post, and then he sharply said, F the Jews. And it kind of surprised me because this was a bit out of his character, what I was used to seeing or hearing from him, because usually he's quite reserved with what he says. But he came out and said, F the Jews. And I said, I understand that. I said, but what are your thoughts of Ilhan Omar and what they're saying about her, the fact that they're trying to take over the White House? And he agreed. He said, yeah. He said, she ain't going nowhere though. She's going to be there. And I'm like, okay, interesting. But I felt the energy kind of like not right. So I left it alone. I walked out, right? But I want to read what this article says. Now, keep that in mind, black people. Whenever you go inside these corner stores, you know, always be aware of who's behind that counter looking at your little daughters and your women and selling you the things that they themselves don't eat. See, they will sell you blunts and alcohol and pork, but they'll tell you quick, I'm a Muslim, I don't eat that. But they will sell it to you, the infidel. It says, explosive testimony given in a Florida court naming Ilhan Omar as a Qatari asset also implicated a number of other prominent American citizens, including political activist Linda Sarsour and senior advisor to the United States President Donald Trump, Jared Kushner. Yesterday, the Jerusalem Post reported on court testimony given by Canadian businessman Alan Bender in the trial of Sheikh Khalid, who stands accused of ordering his American bodyguard to murder 2 people. So now you have these foreigners that's giving bodyguards, that's using American tools to do evil, for corruption, right? And it says Bender told the court that Omar had been recruited by Qatar and had also pledged allegiance to Turkey's President Erdogan, whatever his name is. Speaking to the Post earlier today, Bender confirmed that the report was an accurate representation of what was said in court. Now, the Jerusalem Post can reveal that according to Bender, Qatar aimed to take down Imam, also known as Imam of Peace, for his criticism of Omar, using their contacts in American newspapers to write smear stories that would lead to legal charges against the imam. That Qatar's alleged asset include politicians on both sides of the House and journalists. This is what Trump was speaking out against, right? So by y'all thinking that he's the enemy, in reality, he's the one that's trying to save this ship from being hijacked and from being taken over. And that senior advisor to the President of the United States, Jared Kushner, is also alleged to have taken money from Qatar. In testimony given in the Florida court, a copy of which was sent to the Jerusalem Post, in which Bender said of Omar, they called her sister Ilhan, which is a term you only use when you're a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now remember, Obama was also alleged to be a part of the Muslim Brotherhood. So Abdullah, he refers to Ilhan Omar as Sister Ilhan and Sister Linda, which is Linda Sarsour, another activist who is now going to run for Senate. They're telling you what she's about to do. So stay posted. Keep in mind Linda Sarsour. Keep that mind and that name in the back of your head. She's now about to run for Senate. They're now filling the political system with their people. They're trying to take over the White House. See, that's what this whole fight is about. Once they take over the White House, they control the country. They control the laws. They control you. Okay? They're controlling you. So now your whole future, the future of your children, is right out the window, and it will be hijacked by a bunch of, what do they call them on their ship? Pirates. We have pirates now aboard this ship. So now there's a lot of pirating going on. And I'm going to read later on what they really think of Americans. Primarily American politicians. And it says, somebody recommended her to Qataris. They had several names, several options to pick from to appoint. They called her winning the election is an appointment. Talking about Ilhan Omar. Omar was chosen, Bender said, because her father had a history of carrying out very violent interrogations. As a high-ranking officer in the Somalian army, and they thought that would be very suitable because the more dirt you have on your candidate, the easier it is to control the candidate. Now I'm gonna scroll down. There's a lot to be read. This is so deep and interesting, y'all. I'm telling you, this is interesting, man. You know, and the average American have no idea what's going on. I'm gonna read this small part. So indeed, obedient was Omar, according to Bender, that the Qataris wanted to make sure that nobody can go after her reputation. And that's how they brought up the name Imam Tawali, a social activist who was exposing a lot of that. Okay, let me read this part. There's just so much, y'all. I want to read all of it to you, but I don't have enough time because we're already at 19 minutes. The Qataris, Bender said, asks, if I could arrange for a lawsuit against Tawadi, that it would allow Ilhan Omar to capitalize on and sue him for defamation of character. Their plan was to drum up information about Imam that are not true and then turn it into a media report in one of the prominent newspapers in the United States. And then that turns into a possible lawsuit, which they asked me if I'm willing to sponsor the legal action part. So when you see all these lawsuits going on, man, who's funding this? And look, they even dropping receipts here. There's receipts that's dropped here. And it says, however, Omar was not only prominent American named in Bender's testimony. They, the Qataris, said, we recruited both Republicans and Democrats, but that's not good enough. We want to rule the White House. So they will, he told the court. Indeed, if Bender's testimony is accurate, they are already close. See, they're telling you what they are doing. But yet, this is information that you're not going to hear in the media. Because the only thing the fake news media tell you is about how bad and corrupt Trump is. So, as long as they're telling you how bad and corrupt Trump is, that's where your focus and your attention will be. They're taking your mind off the real issues. And even now, during this holiday season, you'd be surprised at what's being done in the dark, and you won't find out about it until after Black Friday. Right? It says, the Qataris were aware that as an investment, the payoff was the write-off, but told Bender, we just paid it to pay off his debt. And as long as he is in the White House, we have to do what he wants until we would. Oh, yo, check this out. This is heavy. The Qataris were aware that as an investment, the payoff was a write-off. Okay, see, because they intended for Hillary Clinton to be in the White House, right? So they were already paid off. This is how deep the corruption goes. The payoff was already there. And that's why the Obamas, they said Trump would never be president, right? Hillary Clinton, Trump would never be president. He's not fit to be president. And they were ready to party. But it went south. It went the other direction. The Most High stepped in and said, no, not yet. You can't have my people. So Trump in a way is a savior here. Trump is not the enemy. You guys are just conditioned to hate Trump. He's the savior, right? It says that the payoff was a write-off. So they wrote that off, man. It's okay. It didn't work out like we planned it, so we just write that off. But told Bender, we just paid it to pay off his debt. And as long as he's in the White House, we have to do what he wants until we control the White House. We, as in Qatar, Bender clarified. It says the Jerusalem Post has reached out to Mr. Kushner's office for a response. However, no comment has been received of yet. Now, I want to read one more part in this, and then I'm going to show you something else. Now, also, too, you have to understand that the same language that's being used in this article is also, you hear the fake news media and the Democrats use against Trump. See? And now you even have the enemies of America using those same words against him. Now I'm going to read this last part, and I'm going to a very small clip because I want you guys to see something on another article. Okay? It says, his Qatari contacts claim that they, Qatar, financed almost 99% of Saudi descendants in the United States and the UK. They pay them, been their name, you got a name there, and well-known YouTuber as one such individual. Now, I really don't know who this guy is. He's a YouTuber, but he was paid off. And then it says 3 Italians, known as the Engineers, were paid by Qatar, who hacked the accounts of Saudi Arabian and the United Arab Emirates citizens, email, text messages, regular phone calls, laptops, anything you could think of. They hacked into all of that. American officials, this is what I want you guys to pay attention to. Let me see if I can highlight this. American officials are the cheapest to recruit. British officials, they demand millions to be recruited. American politicians, some of them accept $50,000. The Qataris referred to Trump as the Orange Man. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The Qataris referred to Trump as the Orange Man and to Kushner as a descendant of pigs and apes because he is Jewish. And they referred to other American senators and congressmen who are Christians as crusaders. This is heavy, y'all. And this is what you support when you support the Democrats. See, they have an agenda. And these are some very wealthy people that's paying money. And it's a small thing to them. But they're looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at a takeover. This country is being pirated. It's being pirated. Right? So check this out. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, here we go. It says, Omar was said to have also passed information to Qatar, which was subsequently handed along to Iran, and was actively involved in recruiting other American politicians to likewise work for the West Asian Islamic country. Bender testified. Check this out, y'all. The best thing money can buy is American officials, because they are the cheapest of the cheapest costing officials in the world, the Qatari officials were said to have told them. Omar has already been founded by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board to have broken campaign finance rules by improperly using campaign money for out-of-state travel while she was a state representative. Conservative group Judicial Watch has also called the conservative group Judicial Watch has also called on the White Ethics Committee, the House Ethics Committee, to investigate Omar for alleged offenses, including immigration fraud, but these claims go much farther. Omar was one of the 107 House Democrats who co-signed a letter Thursday calling on Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and I hate when this happens. See, this is why I always use my site, because it's not going to change on me, right? With advertisement. And I have to go through and clean up my computer next because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? Calling on Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to reverse his announcement on the legality of West Bank settlements. The signatories claim such a move severely damaged prospects for peace in the region. Okay, so I'm gonna click off that site right there because I don't like what it's doing. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put an article to this on the bottom, and you guys can read it in its entirety for yourself. That's why I transfer information onto my WordPress, because you have some of these sites, especially when you're dealing with foreign news sites, you really don't know what's going on in the background. You know what I mean? So I do this to protect my computer, and the information on my computer. So I put the information on my WordPress. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this link on the bottom, and you guys can check it out for yourself. But this is clear. And I've said this in the past, where there's a takeover. This is a hostile takeover. This country is being taken over, and Americans, the average American, have been dumbed down so much to the point where all you got to do is promise them free stuff. Reparations. Oh, we're going to give you reparations because I feel that what black people went through was horrible. So they deserve reparations because the Jews got reparations. We're going to give you free health care. We're going to give you free lodging. We're going to give you free schooling. You go to college for free. Everybody's free. And then you got one politician, one presidential politician that told you we're going to give each American $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money. How are you going to pay for that? Oh, we're going to go up on the taxes and we're going to tax the rich. We're going to take it from the rich people and give it to you. We're going to play Robin Hood, and y'all are so gullible, you're swallowing that up. You just lapping it right up. All they want is your votes to destroy you. And you read in the article right there where it says that they're being bought off. They're the cheapest. So America is being sold for the lowest bid. You have politicians that's selling their seat. They're being told if they're giving like 50 grand or a couple of $100,000 or $1 million, I'll do what you say while I'm in this position. I'll make sure that certain things don't happen here. But we have to get rid of the orange man, as they say. And as they said, well, we got, as long as he's in there, you know, and I hope Trump is not that gullible where he's thinking that they're his friends. And I'm sure he's smarter than that. I'm sure he's playing the same game that they're playing. You know, when he says, you know, oh, they like me, we're friends. I hope he's not that gullible. Because they're saying in this article, if it's true, they're saying like as long as he's in the White House, we have to do what he says. So that's just a write-off. That's a loss, right? Until we control the White House. See, terrorism is now at a different level, y'all. See, what happened at the World Trade Center is not a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. That was by design. This was already in the works. But Trump came along and messed up their whole plan. Y'all better thank God for Trump. Because there's no telling where this country would be if it wasn't for him. If he was not in that White House. Obama had your mind so screwed up that he told you that it would take a magic wand to bring jobs back. Obama told you that you were defeated. And you believed him and you still support him. Trump came along and proved him wrong. So what they had to do was turn you against him. Just like now they're attacking Giuliani. They're attacking everyone around Trump that's of help to Trump. Giuliani is Trump's muscles. So now they have to target him. They have to try to target him with some type of allegation to divide and conquer. Their main goal is to remove Trump because he's in the way. And terrorists will take over this country if the people don't decide to rise up. And I'm gonna mention this. That all plays into why they're trying to disarm legal Americans. Keep in mind, they're not going after criminals. They're not going after the firearms of the criminals, of those that actually commit crimes. And a lot of these so-called mass shootings that's taking place, I believe a lot of this is by design, is crafted, is created, right? This is something that's happening at the much higher level of government. This is all up into the heights of the government. So those mass shootings are just deployed, just a shiny object to make you think, oh, we got to do something about that. We got to get guns out of people's hands. They're so dangerous. I'm concerned about my kids in school. So they had to create a decoy. And a lot of these so-called mass shootings are no more than decoys to get you to start saying, we have to now vote the right person in office to disarm us, because they don't want you to be in a position where you can fight back. So if YouTube removes this video, you can find it on WordPress, you can find it on Dailymotion, you can find it on Spreaker, because I might upload it to Spreaker. You can find it. It still will be there. I encourage you to download this video, to repost it, to share it, to make this go viral, because this is what the mainstream media is not going to show you. Share this on other sites. Put that information, because they're clearly telling you we recruited both Republicans and Democrats. So when you start hearing Republicans go against Trump, you have to question their motive. He says, but that's not good enough. We want to rule the White House. So that's their whole agenda, is to rule the White House. Don't be an asset, or don't become the minister of your own destruction and for the destruction of your children. So feedback, tell me what you think. And I've told you guys so many times that Ilhan Omar is a terrorist, man. She's a terrorist behind lines, man. It's a different level of terrorism that's taking place. It's not blowing up no building. All that other stuff may be a decoy. It may be to sidetrack you, to keep your mind away from their real motive and agenda. But she's a terrorist, y'all. Right? So feedback, tell me what you think. Subscribe. Click on the Cash App button and donate to the channel. Until next time, I'm fearless.